Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Wulandari and we are from group 4, and here I will explain about definition of speed communities. Speed community is something which is difficult to define precisely. We always have to ask, what does this term get us? Chomsky, formal linguistic notion of ideal speed completely homogeneous, but we know in general that this is lots of variation exists within a group of speakers. There are many definitions of speech community from various linguistics. Namely, Dinos, speech community is all people who use a given language or dialect. Labau, speech community is a participant in a set of shared norms. This norm may be observed in a wide type of evaluative behavior, and by the uniformity of abstract patterns of variation which are invariant in respect to particular level of usage. 3. Jumpers. Speech community is a social group which may be either monolingual or multilingual, held together by frequency in social interaction and set off from surrounding area by witness. 4. Patrick. Speech community is the kind of group that sociolinguistics have generally attempted to study. Based on opinion of linguistics, we can conclude that a speech community is a group of speakers who share a language use. It means that the definition of speech community is a group of people who speak the same language and share the same dialects, words, and grammar rules of a language as a standard. These individuals also share the understanding of at least one language, so that they may communicate with each other. An example of speech community is the group of English language speakers throughout the world. Members of the community speak more often with each other than they do with members outside community. This pattern of behavior is known as communicative isolation. Communicative isolation is increased by social, cultural, economic, and geographical factors. Consequently, over the speech community develop characteristics of language and language use that are different from those in another community. Exactly how to define speech community is debated in the literature. Definition of speech community tend to involve varying degrees of emphasis on the following. 1. Share community membership. 2. Share linguistic communication. 3. Early definition have tended to speech community as bonded and localized group of people who live together and come to share the same linguistic norm because they belong to the same local community. It has also been assumed that within a community of homogeneous set of norms should exist. This assumption has been challenged by later scholarship that have demonstrated that individuals generally participate in various speech communities simultaneously and at different times in their life. Each of it has a different norm that they tend to share only partially. Communities may be the localized and unbounded rather than local, and they often comprise different sub-communities with differing speech norms. With the recognition of the fact speakers actively use language to construct and manipulate social identities by signaling membership in particular speech communities. The idea of the bounded speech community with homogeneous speech norm has become largely abandoned for a model based on the speech community as a fluid community of practice. A speech community comes to share a specific set of norms for language use through living and interacting together, and speech community may therefore emerge among all groups that interact frequently and share certain norms and ideologies. Such groups can be villages, countries, political or professional communities, communities with shared interests, hobbies, and lifestyles, or even just group of friends.
Each person speaks their own typical way according to its place of origin or specific speech community. Persons claim that city cannot be thought of as a linguistic patchwork maps ghetto after ghetto because language and dialect have no simple geographical distribution, and because interaction between them blurs whatever boundaries might be drawn. Urbanization is a great endeavor of linguistic frontiers. Dialect and language are beginning to influence each other. London is a community in some sense but not in others. Neither a single-speech community, even 300 languages or more. It's too big and fragmented. It is difficult to relate our speech community directly to language or language spoken. The concept of SC is less useful than what is expected, and we should be instead referring to group as any set of individual united for a common end. A person can belong to many different groups at any given time depending on the particular end in view. Example: Laura is living in Gothenburg, Sweden, married to a Swedish man. She and her husband speak mostly English and switching and missing but from time to time. She had to learn Swedish with an intense course in Sweden. She is an immigrant from Costa Rica. She has an accent. She doesn't speak Swedish that well. She uses Swedish in the hospital, as well as English switch from time to time and from one group to another. Each member of a community has a repertoire of social identity that are each one in a given context is associated with a number of nonverbal and verbal forms of expression. There is no clear way on how to define how individuals can classify themselves, and the speakers are creating and recreating social identity. So it is impossible to predict the group or community he or she will consider itself to belong moment. This group will change according to situation. Okay, that's all for me. So the next presentation will continue. Be my friend.
Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. My name is saimima. Here I will explain about network and repertoires. Network and repertoires is show that a person can be part of a speech communicated, some that enters and some that do not. Certain individual may be in one or more groups but not other. To be employed in a dense network, if the people you know and interact with also know and interact with one another. If they do not, the network is a lost one. You are also said to be involved in a multi-plague network if the people within it are tied together in more than one way, not just through work but also through other social activity. People who go to school together, marry each other's sibling, and work and play together participate in dense multi-plague network. The linguistic report of one individual speaker is determined by the language characters that he or she know use within his or her speech, communicating active and passive knowledge. A speaker verbal repertoires define his or her individual communicative competence. Communicative competence is the ability to not only construct grammatical correct sentence but also to apply language correctly and appropriately with respect to different social speech situations. A competent speaker is able to vary his or her language by applying different register and styling. Intensity of various relationship frequency or interaction density network. People you know and incorrect also know and interact with one another. Multiply tied together in a network strong. Social cohesion feeling of solidarity, encouragement to identify with other. Open and closed network. Its linguistic effect is intimately related to the type of communicating. Small town or language city, sound heard of know them. Open network. A network with broad open access to its user. Information is often new and of importance. Serious blogger and visitor of blog. Closed network. Mostly strong-tied information that flows in such network tends to be random and infinite. Speech reporters. It is important to remember that group is a relative concept with respect to speech communicating. Also then an individual belongs to various speech communicating at the same times, but he or she will identify with only one of them. There are many definitions of speech communicative, which are all different, too simple or too complex. Verbal repertoires. The totality of linguistic from employed in a sociality significant inclusion, vocabulary, grammar, and speech repertoire. Linguistic varies used by a speech. Okay, that's enough for me, and atas perhatiannya saya mengucapkan thank you very much.
Consequently, over time, the speech community developed characteristics